Another quick tie. Your next fly starts here.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Quick Time. My name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Boat Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying, and we are here to bring you the Half Pint Streamer tonight. Very cool pattern, a little unconventional in how we tie it as a streamer. We don't often use pretty much solely mallard flanks in a streamer pattern, but man does it make a good looking bug at the end. So super excited to take you through that. I do want to thank Western Canada Fly Fishing Guide School for sponsoring this quick tie tonight. If you have any interest in guide school at all, just head over to our website for some more information or reach out to us in any fashion, email or give us a call, and we'd love to share some more information with you about it. For me tonight, I'm going to be tying out of my Season 7 kit. It looks something just like this, and this is coming out of Episode 7. We got two half pints in Episode 7. One's a streamer, one's a nymph, and this is the nymph that we're going to be doing.
Streamer.
Oh my gosh. Is this a take two? Let's keep going. All right, so we're gonna get to this bug. If you're tying out of our individual kits, though, the packaging will look a little different, but all the materials are gonna be the same. And if you don't have any of our kits, that's fine as well. Head on over to our website and you will see, as you see in front of me, you can see all the recipe for this whole thing. So you're gonna get a good fly recipe to get materials of your own and just follow along with us. Hopefully you can get through this with us as well. All right, let's look at this bug. So, this pretty much consists almost solely of mallard flank outside the tail, which is some marabou. Other than that, we use some dubbing in here as well, but I'm gonna show you how we're gonna build this up. It looks so realistic. All of those barred feathers just really make for a realistic looking streamer. So let's get to it. Let's get another hook in the vise. You're gonna have a cone you're gonna stick on there as well. It might seem evident, but you do want the smaller end of the cone facing forward towards the eye of the hook. We're gonna come in here and get that secured in the vise. Make sure it's good and secure as we're gonna be pulling on it quite a bit. Seed that a little deeper. There we go. Okay, for thread tonight, I'm going to be using some UTC 140 in tan. So I'm gonna go with this color here. But before I do that, I'm gonna show you a little trick that I like to use. It won't be in your kit, but if you have some on your desk, grab yourself just a little piece of lead wire. I like this solely for the purpose of holding that cone in place a little easier. So I'm just gonna do a handful of wraps up the hook shank, and then I'm gonna slide this into the cone. And I just find that it helps really secure that cone and doesn't wanna flop around so much on you. Then go ahead and get rid of the tag ends of that. Get that tight. I do like to just touch, when I'm using this stuff, I just put just a touch of Zap-A-Gap on the hook shank before I slide it forward. And that just really helps bind it in to that cone. And it just helps keep that cone up near the head and a little better oriented than it would without it. But not necessary for the pattern, it just makes it a little easier. I'm gonna come in here and start my thread just behind the cone or behind that lead that you put in. And we're gonna trim out that tag end, and we're gonna take those thread wraps all the way back to the back end of the fly. Sorry, this thing is just moving on me a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna take this all the way back to the hook bend. This is a fairly long streamer. We're gonna leave it just before the hook bend, kind of where the barb is on the hook. We'll leave it right there where we tie in our marabou. And that is gonna be the first thing we tie in. So go ahead and grab yourself a piece of marabou out of your kit. It's this nice tan colored marabou. We're gonna tie in a tail that's roughly a hook shank in length, maybe a touch shorter. I wouldn't go much longer than that, but I measure it off the eye. It's about a hook shank in length. Set that right up on top, and I'm gonna get my first securing wrap so that it actually holds it in place on top of the hook shank and not wrapping around. And I'm just gonna keep holding it till I get some good thread wraps down there and know it's good and secure. Now I'm gonna use the rest of this marabou feather just to create an underbody and give something for the next materials to bind to. So I'm just gonna keep wrapping that forward to just behind either your cone or your lead wraps where you can trim it out. Now I'm just gonna do a little bit more to secure that down. Just like that. And then we're gonna come on back to where our tail is and our marabou. Now we're gonna get to work right away with our mallard flank. So we're gonna do a lot of switching back and forth between the standard color mallard flank, so your kind of your natural color, and between our wood duck or dyed wood duck colored ones that look like this, a little bit more brown. Okay. For the first part of this fly, what we're gonna be doing is stripping off. So first off, I'm gonna get some of the fluff stripped off the stem, but then we're gonna be grabbing clumps of this to tie in around into the marabou a little bit. So we start off with the brown or the wood duck, and We're gonna tie a good sized clump on. Just stripped it off like that. Kind of keep it oriented in my fingers. Now I'm gonna tie this one in right on top. And then we're gonna put some of the natural colored stuff down the sides. So I tie that one in, trim out that stem. Like I said, we're gonna be going back and forth between the feathers quite a bit as we go throughout this pattern. Grab yourself another one. Where's one here? I'm gonna grab, again, just a nice clump once I get the fluffies off the bottom. And I'm gonna be doing a fairly large clump on both sides of the fly. So I'm gonna grab a big clump of them, tear them off the stem. I tie it on the near side of the fly first, and then we'll do some on our side. So it looks like that. Just tied it in along there. I'll flip it over. We'll tie some in on the other side next to the wood duck colored stuff. So again, grab yourself a healthy clump once you get the fluffies out of the way. And we'll tie this one in on this side. It's not an exact length. It doesn't matter if they're not perfectly matched in length. This is just giving a bit of a transition into that marabou with this next material. Just like that. Okay. Fluff that up a bit, so you should be left with something that looks like that. We got the brown up on top. We've got the standard color and natural color down the sides. And now we're gonna start actually palmering these feathers forward, okay? So we're gonna start off with the natural colored one. So I'm gonna grab myself one of those, and I wanna peel down so I can expose just the very tip of the feather. So I'm gonna kind of come down like this and expose just the very tip. And I'm gonna trim off this tip because the tips of this one are quite black. Sometimes the naturals had a little darker black on it. So I'm just gonna trim that off so I'm left with a little triangle that I'm gonna tie in. Normally I would actually try to use some of that extra material, but that one was a little dark in color. So I'm just gonna snip that off, tie down that stem. And now we're gonna palmer this like, you know, like you would chenille or something like that. We're literally just gonna start wrapping this forward on the hook shank. And as we go, you're gonna feel like these feathers are just all over the place, and they are gonna kind of do that on you, but that's okay because we're gonna keep folding them back as we go, and then with our thread wraps at the end, we'll be able to basically wrap back over top of them and send them all rearward back down the fly. But it does look quite messy at the start until you get the pattern going and get everything spread out. You're gonna use the majority of that feather if you can. Once I get pretty far into that thicker part of the stem, I'm just gonna tie that off. Again, thread wrap behind and in front a couple times to secure that, and then I'll trim out that stem. And you kind of got material going everywhere, right? Just pull it all rearward, back down the fly, and now I'm gonna go back over my work a little ways and secure it down, and that manages it out really well. And at the end, we're gonna comb this all out and try to even it out the best we can as well, but that's a really good start to doing it. Looks really good. Okay, now I'm gonna go to my dyed wood duck colored feathers. So I'm gonna grab one of those ones, the brown ones, and we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get some of those fluffies out of the way, and then I'm gonna expose the very tip of the feather, if I can. I'm trying not to waste any of that material, so I'm gonna pull back on all these. Once I get down to pretty close to just the tip, I'll tie that in. That's good there. Now I'm trying to tie it so the underside of each of these feathers is pointed back down the fly. So the underside being the dull side or the concave side. And on this one, this little bit of feather that was the tip, I like the color. I'm just gonna fold it right back, and I'm gonna incorporate it into here. I'll fold it back and tie it down. Then I'll advance my thread a bit, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start palmering this one forward. Again, trying to get most of those fibers oriented back and down the fly. I'm just gonna keep wrapping. Again, this one's gonna look messy too until we kind of form it at the end. Keep going forward. And I'm just kind of open spiraling. I'm not trying to do super tight wraps. I'm just trying to open spiral forward. Once I get to where I've used up most of the feather, I'll bring my thread back to the stem. I'll lock it off with that thread wrap behind and the thread wrap in front. And do that one more time. Just make sure it's secure. Then I can trim out that stem. And we're just gonna kind of keep repeating this process up the fly. And now I'm gonna pull all this stuff rearward, wrap back over top of it a little bit. That's going to encourage those feathers to head rearward, back and down the fly, just like that. And something that gives this such a nice feature is that they're not all the same length. They're going to be at various lengths all the way up the fly. It just gives it a really nice tapered look all the way through the fly. Okay, so we've gone natural, we've gone to the wood duck. Now let's go back to natural again for another one. So I'll grab another natural colored feather, expose just the tip once again. And I'll tie this one in again, right in front of the last one. Again, this tip is a nice tip on there, so I'm just gonna fold it rearward and incorporated it in. And now I'm just gonna start palmering this, just like I did the last one. Again, encouraging all those fibers the best we can as we go back. It's always harder when the stem of a feather is thicker to really force them to do anything, but you just do your best. Like I said, it's gonna look messy kind of right up until the end, so don't feel too bad about that. Keep taking that forward. I got to the real thick part of the stem, not much fibers left on it, so I'm gonna lock that off. Behind and in front, behind again and in front. You can trim out that stem. And once again, I'm gonna pull everything back and take a few thread wraps back over top. Just to encourage, and we should have enough space for one more wood duck color. And it all really depends on the size of your mallard flank. If you don't have, if they're not bigger feathers, sometimes you can't get all the way this far forward. So all you're gonna do is just repeat. You're gonna go natural wood duck, all the way till you've used up all the space and until you're right behind the eye of the hook and that cone. I think this one will work out well. This will probably be my last feather. So I'm back to my wood duck color one. I'm gonna tie that in right here. I'll fold that stem back because I'm gonna use it. And I'll take my thread forward to basically right behind the bead or the cone. And here we go, we're gonna wrap this one again as well. And just keep palmering it forward till it's right up behind the cone. We're gonna put just a small bit of dubbing for our collar. But we're gonna use up as much of this as we can going forward. Right there. And now I'm gonna tie that off. Thread wrap behind and in front. And once I got that good and secure, then I'm gonna go ahead and trim out that stem as well. Just wanna do one more behind and in front. Good. Trim that guy out. And the fly's starting to take some form now, although it still looks like a messy hair day. It's all gonna start to sleek back. I'm gonna take a couple of thread wraps kind of behind the cone, but this time I'm not trying to wrap back over my work. I wanna keep it pretty much where it is. And I'm gonna come in here with my orange dubbing you have in your kit. I'm gonna make a small dubbing noodle, nothing too crazy, just grab yourself a little clump. We're gonna apply this to the thread by just twisting our fingers in a single direction to create a nice little dubbing noodle. Try to get it as tight as you can. I wouldn't put a whole ton on there. You can always take it off if you got too much. But I'm gonna go with just about 1.5 inches, 2 inches worth here. And I'm gonna start taking some thread wraps right in front of where I left that feather and forward up against the cone. I'm just gonna tighten that noodle up again. Right there is where I'm gonna finish. And I want my thread to come forward to the cone, pull it down in, get it secure. And now I'm just gonna do a whip finish in this spot. Resin is a bit tough on this specific pattern, I find, because if I put resin in up against that dubbing, it changes the color of the dubbing, and it also just gets really sticky, and it's hard to complete really getting resin into your thread, which I'm not sure you are. I suggest just doing a couple of really good whip finishes, 3-4 turns each, and it's gonna give tons of durability. That thread's really hidden well up inside the edge of that cone and underneath that dubbing. Then I can come in here and trim out my thread. And we're almost there. Like I said, I do like to give this a little comb out. But first I kind of back brush it to stand up everything. And then I come back and encourage it all rearward. Use your fingers as well. And just comb it back. Now you can just imagine in the water, all these feathers kind of moving independently of each other and just giving tons of movement in the water. Very good, very realistic little fly. All right, guys. that has been the Half Pint Streamer. I hope you enjoyed that one. I know it's a little different technique on a streamer than you've probably seen before, but that just tells you to use your imagination. The people who come up with these patterns obviously have thought outside the box, and it creates some awesome flies like this that we get to enjoy, tie up, and fish. All right, again, my name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. Do not forget to drop a comment in here, like and subscribe. Let us know how you like this pattern, and if you fished it, how it's done for you. Okay, we'll be back next week with a couple more flies.